Guys, I'm not sitting on the floor. Like, my new shelves are in, and they're getting put together. They're not where I want them yet, but, like, they're bringing me so much joy. I'm on a couch. This is glorious. This is, like, peak filming a YouTube video when you're 33 energy. I'm not quite 33 yet. Give me a few weeks. Anyways, it's a wrap-up video. It's a new location. I think the sound will be fine. I'm sure the visuals are fine. I'm still probably going to mess around with lighting and stuff like that, but I wanted to see how I liked it with just the ring light and not with the full box, because, like, the box is a lot. But yeah, this is the current space. This is the current new space. I'm going to mess around with it. We'll see what I do. There's another shelf over here. Currently not as many books, because I'm struggling to figure out what I want here. I still, like, have a temporary filming studio upstairs just in case. Because I have a lot of books, and I have a lot of duplicate books, so I'm still figuring out what I want here and everything. But I'm very happy with it. I am so happy with it. You have no idea. Anyways, this is a wrap-up video. I read 6 things in November, but that's primarily because I read like 4 tomes, and the definition of a tome on YouTube is over 500 pages, and I read 4 of them, and 2 novellas. Am I missing a book? Am I going crazy? No, I read 3 tomes, sorry, which is still a lot. 1 normal length book and 2 novellas. So let's just get into it. I don't really have an order for it. There's 6 of them. Let's start with the one that I completely forgot that I read because I read it first, and that is The River Has Roots, which I still hold, and I actually now have the short story collection, and I'm very excited. But this is a short novella, like 100 pages, with a 30-40 page short story. And The River Has Roots has nothing to do with that short story. The River Has Roots is like a retelling of these 2 sisters who basically have this song for the river, and it's a revenge plot, and it's beautiful. Like, the audio production, like the production quality of this novella is very high. I don't actually know, stripped of its production quality, if I have anything else to really recommend it, other than I do like some ways that language is used. But what I did love is the short story at the end of this thing, which again has nothing to do with The River Has Roots. It's actually in the short story collection that I just got an arc of. And that's also a revenge story, but one that sticks with me a lot longer. Especially because not only is it revenge, but it also has some themes of rehabilitation, who chooses to help whom and how, forcing people to reframe the actions they have taken and, like, really see what they have done. And those themes, especially paired with a revenge plot, resonate so much stronger for me, like, so much. So that's where I am there with River Has Roots. It was very good. I like the part that is not meant to be in this immeasurably more. So I don't know what that does for my rating, because, like, that short story is probably a 4.5 short story. I think the novella itself is like a 4-star novella. So whatever I put on the screen here. Next up, we've got, well, let's talk about another novella thingy. It's called Rouge Street. It has 3 novellas in it. And I read this for my book club. I have a book club that I go to at Hexagon Books, and I'm going to link their bookstore down below in bookshop.org or whatever it is, because they have one. And what I love is, like, before I started going to these book clubs, I was like, man, I'm really struggling to, like, find translated works that I want to read, especially because of Herked. I've gone to 3 book clubs, and I have read 3 different translated works in 3 different languages, like, effortlessly. So if you're someone who wants a place that specializes in diverse world literature, diverse culture representation, they're amazing. I love them. And so we read this, which is modern Chinese translated magical realism, literary fiction novellas. It felt more literary fiction-y to me, although there were moments that reminded me of a book I really love called The Strange Beasts in China, which is also a translated Chinese SFF, especially because both of these had, like, mystery solving components that had, like, a cadence that was familiar. I also think how Chinese dialogue is translated has a unique cadence to it. I've read enough Chinese translated works by now where I'm just like, yeah, this is just, like, the way you guys interact and talk. It's not something that feels as natural to me, but I've now seen it with enough separate translators and things that I'm like, okay, this is just the cadence of the dialogue. And I kind of like that some of that, well, I mean, I guess I don't know how authentic it is, but that uniqueness to that language and dialogue gets to come through even when translated to English. It's the whole idea of like, how much do you keep the spirit of the thing when you're translating it and stuff. And I kind of like that. That's just an aside. These novellas themselves, this author loves a nonlinear timeline. Oh my god. Adores it. Can't let it go. That it's like the most consistent thing. Like, in theory, the thematic through line of Rouge Street is these are all stories that take place between the 80s and the 2000s in this part of China post-Cultural Revolution, and it's kind of like a Rust Belt area, but for China. So if you don't know about the Rust Belt in the United States, you know, big industry boom, big fall. Similar things for Rouge Street. And the family dynamics and how they interplay are really interesting. Commentaries on marriage, commentaries on dreams, lost and what you're searching for. Like, a lot of it's relatable, and then a lot of it's very literary fiction, where I'm like, what? I thought I was in a fairly grounded story, but now a fish is talking to me. Like, that sort of thing, which I don't really love in literary fiction, but some people adore. I did find it hard to follow, but that is because I only used the audiobook, and it was a proper noun issue that I wouldn't have had an issue with if I was physically reading it, because I'm much better at tracking proper nouns with my eyeballs. And in general, I was able to, like, connect the dots, but it did feel sometimes to be confusing for confusion's sake, and obviously it's what he intended to do. I just don't necessarily think I agree that that made the story's themes more effective or not, but I say that as someone who was confused. So, like, you know, that's, you know, how I'm going to feel about it. I really loved talking about these with people, and I do like, in small doses, being pushed outside my comfort zone, and this was pretty short, so I was pretty happy about that. So those are my short things. So then I guess I could just keep going through the rest of it from shortest to longest. That seems fine. So next up is Mate by Ali Hazelwood, the sequel to Bride. There it is. I liked this. I did. Funnily enough, I don't like these paranormal romances as much as I like her contemporary romances. Although I do think the plots of these are more interesting, and the world building is pretty fun and cozy in a paranormal sort of way. But the actual, like, romance itself, I'm never that into the two love interests' chemistry or their yearning, which is so weird because that's something I'm usually very into with an Ali Hazelwood. That's just a personal disconnect for me. Tropes that you might like if you are into someone who, you know, you got all the physical tension because they're not allowed to have sex. That's here. We have the she's in denial that he really cares about her, and he's in denial that he really cares about her sort of dynamic. You don't really get a lot of the alpha tropes, actually, I feel, as strong. Like, he is an alpha. Like, that's the whole point. He is the alpha of these werewolves, and she is his mate. And, like, they aren't going to do anything about it, but then biology intervenes. If you don't like some of the stuff that goes along with werewolf sex scenes in our day and age, don't pick it up. There's like 2 or 3 chapters where that's like all it is. Like, and maybe you could just skip through them, but like, if you don't like it, it's not going to suddenly make you like it, I don't think. I mean, I don't even know if I really like it. It's just one of those things where I'm just like, it happened. It didn't bother me, I guess, one way or the other. But it also wasn't as fun for me, like I said, as some of her other, like, romance books. So, and I am someone who typically, like, I do like sex scenes in romance books. I think that they're fun, especially when done right. And I think for this, they were fine. I think they were fine. And they did serve, like, a purpose, I feel. It just was like, there was all of this build up, and I just don't think the payoff worked for me. But I will say, when I started reading this, I was like, is this a new, like, 5-star favorite romance? Because it had a lot of my tropes. It did. I do love an in-denial hero. I do. So yeah, that was Mate. I don't actually know what the next longest is. I think it's going to be the Reformatory, but let me just take a check. Yes, it's going to be the Reformatory. So I finished this at the very start of the month because I had read a lot of it in October. And so this is a historical fiction horror. And I would say that it's like, if Sinners, the movie, is 50% historical fiction and like 50 campy horror. This is more like 65 to 70% historical fiction and 30% campy horror. And not even campy horror, but like supernatural qualities and such. So that said, if you're someone who's like, I really want to read it, but I'm a scaredy cat, I think you can read The Reformatory. I don't think it's actually like scary. It's more like horrifying because, you know, it's the 1950s, which is, check notes, only 75 years ago or something like that. Not that long ago. Like, my grandmother is older than when this book takes place. And it's about Florida, and, you know, this 11-year-old, I think he's 11 or 12, kicks a boy and ends up at the Reformatory. And the Reformatory is not a good place. And he has to be there for 6 months. Now, he is also the son of a man on the run from the white people in this town. And it obviously is very politically complicated. And, you know, they say only 6 months. Is it going to be longer than that? Is he even going to make it to 6 months? It's like very stressful. Something I really liked, and I think what helped me not being in the absolute graphic horror of it all, because it's graphic. It's so graphic in what is done to this little boy. Is the sister gets a perspective. I think her name's Gloria. And I think she's a really interesting character. You can really feel the, like, she is also young, but having to shoulder so much and problem solve so much. And I do generally like how Tananaridu has ended her horror stories. They are to my taste thus far. But if you've read The Good House and you're looking for more of The Good House, this is not it. They are very different horror stories. The Good House is more pulpy horror, more campy horror. There's definitely still, like, commentary on race and inequality and things like that. But it's not like The Reformatory. Like, The Reformatory is like, it's historical horror, and a lot of the scary qualities are less about the ghosts and the haints and stuff like that. Which there are those things, but it's not really like, that's not the scary part. So that's The Reformatory. Next up, let's do The Sovereign, because I think that is my next largest one. This is the last book by C.L. Clarke. I have an interview with them. I really liked the ending of this trilogy. Like, a fair bit. Like, it's a slow burn, but I think it's a truly well-earned slow burn, like, rich ending to the series. Is it my favorite? No, that's The Unbroken. The Unbroken is a near perfect book for me. But The Sovereign is, like, a really, really good series ender, I feel. I don't think it cheats you on anything. I think characters are true to who they are, having some growth, but also it's only been a few years. They're still dum-dums. They're still doing things. The stakes are raised. Where we end up as a society and for the characters feels earned and makes sense. It's both a story still about these individuals growing, but also their relationship. I just think it balances so many facets incredibly well. And it's really hard to do those things when you're in a series ender. Like, it's really hard. And I think she did it. Like, I think this stuck the landing. And I'm very excited after that interview for some future works. We got a standalone coming out on the horizon that I'm like, I'm ready. I am ready. So if you're someone who's been waiting to read The Unbroken until the trilogy was ended, you got to give it a go. You got to do it. It's really good. I highly recommend. Probably my best read of the month. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is definitely my best read of the month. Next up is The Strength of a Few. A Strength of a Few. What is it called, actually? The Strength of a Few. This is fascinating to see the discourse on this around the internet, because just as a reminder, I did read The Will of the Many when it came out. I liked it. I didn't, like, love it, but a 4-star. You know, I liked it enough that I'm like, yeah, I'll read the sequel. But it's not like, this is my personality now. Fantasy is so back. I didn't think fantasy left. You know, like... but it was also definitely like, there, if you were like thinking about, if you like this, try this, like people who like Brandon Sanderson, the Lightbringer series, stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, they would like The Will of the Many. And in many ways, it does a lot of traditional fantasy tropes with enough of a world-building spin to like bring people in. And then the ending of the first book is truly one of the best cliffhangers to have been written in a long time. Okay? Like, you know... We all read the end of that book, and we all went, but what are we going to do with that? And then we get this, and I'm not going to spoil the end of The Will of the Many. But I liked The Strength of a Few. probably a bit more than The Will of the Many. Not astronomically more. I think they're both 4-star books for me. But I thought The Will of the Many had some pacing problems. It felt a little bloated for what it was for me. Now, I also read it at a time where I was in a weird headspace too, so how much of it was weird headspace, how much of it was actual bloat? I don't know. I do think some problems I have in both of them are still the character Vis. He is a very placeholder character for me. Like, he is a reluctant hero, which is always a hard sell for me, but I think he's a good version of a reluctant hero. I can see why he is a reluctant hero, but he doesn't have a lot of personality. And I think that's where he's more of a placeholder. Like, you can probably insert personality traits in based off certain actions, but like, in terms of his charisma, I don't see it, but apparently he has it. Like, it's a very, like, Paul from Dune sort of thing, Darrow from Red Rising. Like, they're not all the same character. And if anything, honestly, I shouldn't put Darrow in there. I think Darrow has a personality. But there's this type of character who, like, is forced at the center of a situation, is really talented, is begrudgingly accepting of his center status, and it's fine. Like, I don't mind those tropes. I just want this character to have a personality, you know? And I don't think he really does. And I don't really love how characters are put around him to be used to emotionally manipulate him. It's not my favorite thing. It happens a lot in both books. More so, I think, in the second book. And I think that's just not, like, very interesting. Now, that said, there's a lot of interesting things happening. First and foremost, the stakes are interesting. Like, that's the thing that has me most hooked. The stakes of this world and what we learn about this world, less so the magic situation, the sci-fi magic situation. I still don't really know how it works. I don't really care. I get the plausibility rules and I'm just like, fine. Like, sure, you're doing this or that. I would not call it hard. Like, it probably has rules, but at this point, I could not really teach you a lesson on the magic system in much depth. Granted, I haven't, like, done a lot of research, but most of the time, a hard magic system, I could really be like, you can do this and this and this and this and this, and a lot of it's because we're learning a lot on the fly. So I guess maybe it's like, it's not as structured as we know Mistborn, but it's a little more structured than Stormlight in terms of our knowledge base. That said, that's not what I care about. Like, whatever. I care about why the world is the way it is, what the stakes are, and we just learned more information. Like, that mystery is why I'm here. Is that good enough to read 2, like, 600, 700 page books? I don't know, but I had a good enough time. I don't like the action scenes. I'm not a big action scene person to begin with. This book does not make me enjoy the action scenes. I legitimately tune out. There is objectively a high stakes scene in this book that, like, if it was a Fast and Furious movie, I'd be locked in. But it's a book, and my brain doesn't do it well. So I'm just like, okay, what are the consequences of this action? I care about that less so than being in this action. And that's just, he doesn't translate action well for me. I have some authors that do. This one doesn't. That's fine. Mileage varies, right? So that's the coolness factor for me is the mystery. I do find them entertaining. I don't actually think the world building's that interesting. And someone was bringing it up because of something that the author does in the second book that I cannot bring up because it is a spoiler. But I will say I missed what they brought up because the world building cues for that were purely aesthetic. I really don't like purely aesthetic world building. I just don't. I think it's lazy. If you are trying to be like, and now this should evoke this type of culture in you because don't you see this visual marker that's related to this visual marker in our real world? Like, no. For me, aesthetics are a part of culture, obviously, but it also has to do with how people interact with each other. Like, it has to do with interpersonal relationships. It has to do with priorities and loyalties. And I think in that way, what is done is culturally interesting, but it's just not that fleshed out. It's like, it's super surface level. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So, I like it. I'm going to read the next one. Like, I think what's interesting is I've seen a lot of people loving the first book and not liking the second book. And I like the first book and I like the second book, but I don't love either of them. So, you know. And if I didn't have the audiobook, I probably wouldn't read it that quickly because I don't think his writing style like really works for my brain very well, but like the audiobook is fine. So yeah, that's what I can say spoiler free about the sequel. And just in general, my hierarchy trilogy thoughts. I think it's a trilogy. I mean, if it's not a trilogy, he's gonna have to really sell why it needs to be that much longer, because like, goodness. But that's what I read. And this is the new set. And it brings me so much joy that when I am done filming this, my feet will not have fallen asleep, guys. It's amazing. Really, really the best birthday gift to me. My birthday's in like a week and a half from when you're seeing this video, so I'm pretty pumped about it. If you don't have any thoughts about the books that I've read or don't want to share any books that you've read and you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, I don't know. My favorite book was The Sovereign. Let's leave something red for The Sovereign because like that's all I got. I don't know what to take from this, or a tree, a red or a tree. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.